this video, I attempt to build the craziest end base that's ever been made in survival Minecraft, and I think it's easily the biggest project I've ever done. Make sure to watch to the end of the video and let me know if I actually pulled it off. The very first step to any jaw-dropping end base is to clear out the existing end island. So I spent 2 weeks drilling holes and filling them with TNT. It took 135,000 TNT, but it was totally worth it. The explosion destroyed the entire end island in only 7 minutes. It was like watching a chemical reaction. But now I'm left with a totally blank canvas. I started making a list of things I want to do with my end base. Number 1 is try my hand at terraforming. Now that I've begun to learn world edit, I really think I can level up. Second, I want to make something sort of cyberpunky. My overworld base is sort of medieval, with nothing really fancier than like steam power. It would be cool to try to work in a more futuristic style. And lastly, I want to make sure that I include lots of color. The end is such a dark place, and some bright colors will really help the base stand out. So I started drawing, and after a few different iterations, I had a solid plan. Our end pillars are going to be buried in a big, lush island full of greenery and custom trees. Scattered across the island, we'll have some simple pagoda-style buildings, and towering above will be a massive cyberpunk city. But just the terraforming alone is going to take forever, so we better start gathering resources. We're gonna need a bunch of stuff. I started off by AFKing overnight at my cobble farm. We're gonna use lots of cobble itself, but we're also gonna need it for stuff like stone and andesite. After a full night of AFKing, I had chests and chests full. So I smelted up a bunch of it in my super smelter. Then it was time to craft a bunch of andesite. For this we need quartz, and since I'm too lazy to mine for it, I AFK'd overnight at my piglin farm. And then I did that again. 2 nights in a row. And that is why my levels are so freaking high. I got all the quartz I needed and crafted up tons of andesite. Another thing we get from piglin bartering is gravel. Not only do we need gravel itself, but that's also gonna help us make a bunch of concrete powder. You also need sand for concrete powder. I use a sand duplication machine I built at my end portal with sand I bought from the Wandering Trader. I should probably mention I play on a 10-year-old Superflat world. I would go into it more, but I made a whole movie about it, and plus I need to stay focused. We have an entire island to build. The stones of the island are gonna use gray concrete, light gray concrete, and light gray concrete powder. And we're also gonna use green concrete powder for the grass. Our palette for the grass also includes moss blocks and green wool. Just a few hours of AFKing at the moss factory gave us plenty of moss. Then I visited my high capacity sheep farm and dyed all the sheep green. After yet another overnight AFK session, we had chests and chests full. We're gonna use light gray and gray wool for this project as well, but we have plenty of that at our sheep towers. We also need tons of smooth basalt, but luckily I have a basalt farm. I threw that into the super smelter as well, and then we had plenty of smooth basalt for the project. All the resources we've collected so far have been a breeze, but now it's time to move on to some harder ones. Our tree farm only handles oak, birch, jungle, and spruce saplings. That means all the acacia and mangrove wood we're gonna need for this project has to be mined by hand. Eventually we'll make farms for those wood types as well, but today I'm not feeling it. I only had 1 villager selling cyan terracotta, so I traded with tons of masons until I got 3 more with the trade. Luckily, while unlocking the masons, I got a bunch of dripstone. After curing them all and trading with all 4 for a while, I had a good amount of cyan terracotta. Mud requires me to mine dirt by hand at the bottom of my world, but luckily I recently built this mud converter that hooks right into my blast chamber. With all these materials in shulker boxes and ready to go, it was finally time to start building the island. Oh, we're gonna need to light this up. The progress is going pretty fast because I'm using Lightmatica to see where blocks need to go. The whole island was designed in creative mode with the help of my friend Junipi from the Bakery Builders. What's up, Juno?
Hey.
So how are we gonna lay in the basic shape of the island?
For that, I usually go with the boulder command.
The boulder command has this cool modifier that lets you choose the smoothness of the boulder from 0 to 5.
I usually use 2 to 3.
How do we like smooth it out?
We can use something called blend ball.
With the main island shape down, it was time to add some big boulders to the landscape, like in my drawing. And once we had all the boulders in, we just needed to figure out where the grass layer would go. Once that grass layer was in place, we started painting, and Juno showed me how to use a purlin noise pattern to create smooth gradients.
It adds an instant pattern, kind of like marbling.
We used a combination of those purlin gradients and the gradient brush from Go Paint to finish off the rest of the texturing on the island. Thanks for the help, Juno.
Yeah, anytime, dude.
With Juno's help, the island was looking just like I imagined it, and filling in the schematic was no problem at all thanks to all the resource collecting we did. And so it was time for one of my favorite things in Minecraft. I put on some good YouTube videos, zoned out, and got building. And before I knew it, the island came to life before my eyes. At this point, I've basically finished placing all the grass for this island, but there's still so much stone that needs to be placed under here. We're making so much good progress. I finished up all the mud that surrounds the grass, and you can see I put like the base of all these boulders in just so I know where they start. So really now we just need to finish up these boulders and eventually finish up this lake area. By hiding shroom lights underneath moss carpets, I was able to make sure this island is nice and bright, which looks nice and is also important in case we ever want to try and mob-proof it fully. Alright guys, I finally finished up all these boulders, and I have to say this entire island is looking insane. I know I've already seen it so many times in creative mode, but somehow it just hits different when you actually build it in survival. I've still got to finish up this little lake bed area, but I think I'm going to save that for the end of the video. That means the last thing we need to do before starting our big structure is put in some beautiful cherry blossom trees. I'm going to be building all of these completely from scratch by hand, so this should be fun. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that tree building isn't so hard. Maybe I'm barking up the wrong tree. I just really think some people need to branch out. You can't be too comfortable in your roots. You just gotta stick to it. Okay, I'll stop. And we're done. 12 custom trees, except they look a little dead. So now's the really fun part. We need 17 stacks of pink glass, 13 stacks of pink wool, 10 stacks of pink concrete, 7 stacks of magenta, and 3 of the pink glazed. And last but not least, we need 10 stacks of mushroom stems. So it's time to use our trusty mushroom stem farm. And there we are, 10 stacks of mushroom stems. All right, time to get to work. After losing all my levels, I moved on to creating the Shattered Islands that form the base of our megastructure. At this time, I was still finishing the design up with the help of Shovel241 and Snarple from the Bakery Builders. I was racing to try and finish the design as quickly as possible, but my PC was having major issues. This video was already taking me forever, and without a working computer, I didn't know what to do. But then I got in contact with Ironside Computers.
Oh my god, they already finished it.
I'm here. This is so exciting.
I unboxed the PC and it immediately ran like a dream. I'm running all my favorite games with the highest graphics and editing is faster than ever before. Plus, Ironside even helped me install an extra drive and they've reached out from time to time to make sure that everything's running okay. Right now, they're doing a limited edition Tokyo Dream PC, which is such good inspiration for our Cyberpunk build. This isn't just some faceless business. These guys are super knowledgeable and insanely down to earth, and their builds are stylish inside and out. If you don't believe me, just look at their YouTube channel. The builds are insane and they have interviews with the staff. Please help out the channel by checking out my affiliate link in the description below. I can't recommend them enough. Well, my PC troubles are finally over. I just got over COVID and I'm finally ready to get back to work. I mined up a shulker box of warped and crimson wood so we can start our first building. I used a double layer of glass and glass panes to get a sort of glow effect. To the right of the building is a staircase leading to an alleyway with this creeper graffiti. In the back of the alleyway, I built a condemned arcade using armor stands pushed into blocks for the arcade cabinets. I made some vending machines to really capture that cyberpunk vibe. Then I built a little ramen shop on the other side of the street. I began adding some detail to the front of the build and did this little green building with iron trapdoor windows. I had to use levers on the back to make some of them horizontal. It's a neat effect. This fan was a pain with all the observers behind it, and I had to spend a netherite on the lodestone in the middle. I think it was worth it. I've been working all day and you still can't even see the build from the spawning pad. Eventually when this thing is done, it's gonna go so high up. Every time I needed something during this build, I kept grabbing shulker boxes until this monstrosity formed. But on the bright side, now that everything's here, I'm starting to build a lot faster. Now I'm gonna try to build something really challenging. On these big flat spaces around the city, there's advertisements and murals that use a ton of random blocks. So let's just see how long this takes. I found a cool pixel art on Google and then made some edits to it and converted it to Minecraft blocks using an online tool. I just had to take out Superflat unobtainables, but it wasn't too bad. Next, I built this lucky cat that I made with Snarple, who taught me how to make signs look neon by using gradients behind end rods. You can see what I mean from the back. The murals didn't take that long, so I started working on the crumbling bridge on the right side of the structure from my drawing. Shovel241 helped me create the dissolving effect at the end, and it came out really cool. It's hard to believe this used to be a normal end island as I'm walking along this bridge. I can't wait to add more detail and make it more immersive. Next up, I built a shady tunnel with some sort of campsite. This is where the villagers probably go to do illegal trades. It's right above that other little alley area we built up. Somehow we're gonna need to transition the roof of this alley into the rest of the build. But at this point, I went back to filling in the gaps in the front of the structure, which really helps everything just feel more complete. I feel like we've already achieved my 3 main goals for this build, but there's so much more to go. I'm really happy with this build so far, but I think I need a break from these complex buildings. I want to put a ring of end rods connecting each of these end gateways surrounding our base. The first step is to lay down a dirt ring under where the end rods are going to go, just to make placing them a little bit easier. Okay, I went ahead and got that dirt in place, so now it's time to start placing rods. These are the only end rods I have, so we're gonna have to craft more, but let's just see how far this gets us. That didn't last very long. End rods are crafted with blaze rods and popped chorus fruit. Okay, I don't have a ton of blaze rods. Basically, I reset my nether in 1.16 when the nether updated, and so I don't have a blaze farm anymore.
You might have to reset the nether, Nolan. I think you might be right.
But at least we have a chorus fruit farm, so I'm gonna AFK here for a little bit. Okay, this thing is really slow, so I'm gonna get the chorus fruit manually. But to get to the end, we gotta go through the nether, so we might as well try to hunt for blazes while we're here. Hunting for blazes is way too slow, so I'm just gonna build a blaze farm. This won't take long, right? And it actually didn't take long. I built up the farm within a few minutes, and after like 10-15 minutes of AFKing, I had plenty of blaze rods. Now I just need to find some chorus fruit. There we go. This should be enough to finally finish our ring of end rods. And hopefully we'll have plenty left over for the rest of our city. Putting down the end rods and removing the dirt actually doesn't take that long. I was kind of dreading doing this ring, but it didn't take nearly as long as I thought, and it just looks so cool. But now it's time to start the main tower that's really gonna make this build feel like a city. Hopefully my resources will take me decently far. Man, these repeaters will look super cool when the build is finished, but they're so annoying to craft. It sounded so great when Snarple told me about it. This building also used a lot of mud, so I went back to the overworld to gather more. And then I was struck by hubris. Like Icarus, I have flown too close to the sun. I knew this farm wasn't working for wood. The blast chamber's been a little screwed up lately. I thought the mud farm was fine though, and usually I'd make a backup, but I didn't want to break my replay mod time-lapse, and it all exploded. I guess this farm is officially out of order until I can repair it. This was my only source for automatic mud, oak, birch, spruce, and jungle farming. Oof. Instead of thinking about all the wood I'm gonna need to manually farm soon, I went back to work on the tower and finished off this colorful little segment. Next, I made an entrance for a Chinese restaurant. I want to do interiors for this base someday, and I have so many fun ideas. I kept jumping around working on things for a while, and then I did this rooftop garden area, which came out really neat. And finally I built up this quarter circle building, which helps break up the shape of the tower a little bit. This is kind of the main focal point of the build. We're finally starting to see the build from where we spawn in. It's looking so cool. I just came back from crafting target blocks. I'm using them up here to go behind some banners. Since banners disappear when you fly far away, the blocks behind kind of make up for that missing detail until you get close enough. This is a trick Snarple taught me. It mimics how in lots of games detail loads in as you get closer. I gotta restock on wood, so I'm not gonna stop until all of these shulker boxes are full. I collected oak, birch, jungle, spruce, dark oak, and acacia. Hopefully I don't run out again, because this took a few hours. So far, the city has had a huge variety of blocks, but one of the things that Snarple taught me was to unify the style you use at the top of the builds. That way, it just kind of ties everything together in a cohesive way. So I think we can get a lot done by just finishing off the top of some of these towers. So I'm gonna try to do a little bit of that here. We're gonna go with like a pagoda style that's really gonna capture this cyberpunk feeling. Wish me luck. And there we go. A couple of the tops are now done. As expected, it didn't take that long because there's not a huge material list. The biggest issue is I keep running out of blackstone, but now this area is kind of like half finished and floating. It looks pretty bad. So I'm gonna continue work on this bridge area. And we also need to build the train car that's gonna go down here. The train car uses a bunch of weird redstone items, so I'm gonna craft them all up and let's get started. You know, I have to be honest with you guys. There were times when I thought I might have to scrap this entire video. I mean, way back on September 29th, I made an emo tweet about not being able to get anything done on this video. And right now when I'm recording this, it's November 21st, so it's been almost 2 months. I went on vacation, I got sick, I went through PC troubles, but for the first time in this whole project, it's starting to feel like the end is in sight. Well, I guess technically the end has been in sight the whole video. But really the point is, sometimes in life you have to buckle down and get to work, even when you doubt yourself, or when a project seems destined to fail. And Minecraft is no different. I pushed and now we're almost there. So it's time to give it that final push and finish this base. I tried to make signs for people that helped along the way. There's one for Shovel241 who helped a ton, especially with the bridge area. I also built one for Starpo who taught me so much about building in this style that their sign even includes ancient debris. And there's one for Junipi who taught me so much about terraforming and helped me get this island looking just like how I imagined it. And I want to shout out Rebella, Snippet, Davdi, and Airtug for helping out. It's an honor to be friends with such amazing builders. I also built this Ironside logo to shout out Ironside Computers for helping me with the new PC. And even though they aren't a sponsor, I made a sign for sugar-free Red Bull because I drank a lot of them to finish this video. Please sponsor me. I wrapped up the main tower by putting another pagoda on top. I designed these 2 quartz lion statues that I think actually came out pretty good for the small scale. This pagoda is extra tall and dramatic to give this skyline some more verticality. This thing is enormous. Like, it's so tall, it takes me at least 3 rockets to get to the very top from our island. And once you get up here, the view really shows how high up you are. Really, the only major part of the city to fill in is this cluster on top of the bridge section. This had tons of tedious blocks to get, including tons of terracottas, wools, and concretes. Getting a villager for each terracotta color was such a long and tedious project, but it was so worth it for me to be able to do mega projects like this. But even though resource gathering wasn't too bad, a big challenge with this project was inventory management, which is why you see me flying around so much. I frequently have to repair my elytra at the end farm, but at least there's a cool view on the way back. Honestly, the hardest material in the whole build was wood, especially with all the trapdoors. But luckily I spent an entire stream refilling my shulker boxes, so I have more than enough. I finished up with this little cafe on top of one of the buildings. Eventually I really want to make the city totally explorable with interiors and Easter eggs. I think I'll do a lot of that on stream in the future. I gotta comb through and fix some things here and there, but for the most part the exterior is pretty much finished. But there's still a few big holes in the city, and they all have one thing in common. They all require copper. It's time to use our copper farm just through this gateway here, I think. Oh yeah, this is it. I tried leaving the copper to oxidize in what I thought were my spawn chunks, but I'm not even sure these are my spawn chunks, and I don't know if it would work while I'm in the end or not, so I guess we're just gonna have to AFK overnight. Oh, looks like it's all done. After a bit more copper farming, I finished up all the remaining parts of the build, and I scrubbed through, making sure to clean up anything I missed along the way to the best of my ability. Oh. Man, this is such a surreal moment. This project was honestly so difficult for me. I think I'm finally gonna build up this little pond area and just reflect on my journey. So I got to work hand painting the pond and making it as beautiful as I possibly could. And I made a little gazebo where you can sit by the water and ruminate. It's always sad adding the water and partly covering up your beautiful art, but I cheered myself up by building an elegant custom tree. There's so much more to do to make this build come alive with interiors and extra details, but I'm really proud of how far this project has come. And for now, I'm ready to leave the end and its dumb inhabitants. So I built one last thing, a little tower to help blend the exit portal. Yep, this should do the trick. See you later. Thanks for watching.